Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for coming out to the Artist Talk. And of course, he really needs no introduction. We all know he is a renowned entertainment photographer, Parrish Lewis. Let's give him a round of applause. Big weekend, big week, big year, the big 5-0. A lot to celebrate, a lot to talk about. But I think we should dive into the man of the hour and talk about the beginning. How did it all get started? Because we know where you are today is not necessarily what you saw when you were younger. We're not going to say how many years younger, but younger.
Thank you, Val. Um, I think for me, it started as, it didn't start as like art in that art world. I think I started in a way of just trying to like figure out a way of balancing, like trying to live out my dreams and do something different. And also knowing that I had to do like a real job. I wasn't exposed to the arts coming up. So my thing was that I went into IT for a while. And
Now, was this right out of high school into college? Like, is that what you?
it was close. Yeah, right out of high school. I did spend a semester away in school. And the world was calling me back to, I had responsibilities at home. So my mom wasn't able to afford for me to be gone from college, going away. So, it would have been a dream to stay. But I, had to come back home and take care of those things. So
That happens to a lot of people, and that's part of your story that can encourage people too who don't necessarily have that same path. So keep going.
yeah. So good you served that up. But I started in IT and was really good. So I got all my certifications in the Cisco world, and I thought that was the path for me. And I got exposed to photography because at one point I thought I can probably model, be in front of the camera.
You could?
Yeah, and I look better when I was younger.
Oh, cut it out. Stop it. I know one person in this room who still thinks you fine.
So it was when I got exposed. The photographer that was shooting me at that time, his name is Brian Johnson. He was a photographer. He's also the same curator that helped me bring me into this artist world. But Brian was so busy. He was talking to me about the more or less the hustle of it then, and it became, I saw the value of me being able to do something, learn a technique that I can kind of like have. It was like a trade, right? That I can learn this technique of photography and I can charge per roll of film, because I was intrigued by how much I can charge per roll of film.
Roll of film. That's old school.
That's old
roll
school,
of film.
right? So when Brian was breaking down like the cost of the roll of film and how much he's charging for it, my wheels started turning in my head. And it was like, I can turn this into something for myself, just get good at it, because it was technical still. So it'll still allow me to, use my technical side of my brain and then the art side of my brain kind of come together, which I didn't know the art side was there. It was truly only a hustle. So that's how I kind of got started. And once I kind of went to school, I took a 13-week course at Columbia College. And from there, I started going out to a lot of castings where I was getting the models to allow me to shoot them for free. So I shoot their headshots. So I became known. I was dropping my logo on all of the photos, became known for doing headshots. And that then called the attention to a lot of hair care companies like Luster Products, Organic Root Stimulator, and Soft Sheen at the time. So I started moving into the world of black hair care. So I still got, which is crazy, packaging on the shelves from many, many, many years ago.
No way.
Yeah. So that was the start. That was the start.
Okay, so at what point did you realize that you were onto something? Because it didn't. You still deviated and had to go back to, corporate America, right? So talk about the course, and it's not always necessarily straight. Sometimes there's some detours.
Yeah. So along that way, once I started my name started ringing and people started coming out, and they actually started paying for the shoots, and I was getting paid jobs from the hair care companies. It gave me an avenue to, at that time, leave my corporate job and then, pursue photography full time. And during that time when I did start pursuing photography, I had a lot of mentors, like a few names like Ernest Collins, Andre, who's sitting here as well, was a mentor, Victor Powell, Reggie Payton, and David Jenkins, rest his soul. But those are all my mentors. Those are the older Black photographers that were in the commercial space that I was looking to try to figure out how to price and how to put together a portfolio and even just how to drum up more business. So at that time, it just seemed like it wasn't as competitive as it is now.
Okay.
So I say that because when I noticed how it was moving for me, and then digital came about, right? It caused things to change for me, because then that's what made me go back to corporate.
Okay. And how so? Like, what was the change and what was the shift? Why is it more difficult at that time to switch from what you knew to the digital world?
At that time, it was very technical, right? So you really had to know how to use a light meter. You really had to know how to expose your film to kind of get the right shot. You really have to know what you were doing. And that's what I went to take the course for, is that you really have to know these things. And it seemed that digital kind of took the technical aspect of it and simplified it, because it gave you instant satisfaction. Whereas that you were able to take a shot, and if it wasn't right, you can look at it, tweak it, make adjustments on your camera and keep shooting it till it kind of comes out right. So once people got a hold of that, I think more people had that yearning to kind of for that entrepreneurship, and they thought photography was it for them. So at one point, I thought business cards came with the camera because everybody was shooting,
Yeah.
And it to the point where is that it drove me back into a corporate space, because I knew my safety net was IT. I had the certifications, and I had to do that. So that was a safety course, and I stayed in IT for a little bit. That was the low, and I dipped back out again because I felt the courage that I could kind of keep it going. And then I got married. Well, I met my wife.
Yeah.
And at that time, she's a high profile marketer, and at that time I knew people who did marketing, but my wife really does marketing. So when she put her eyes to the work, it wasn't, I wouldn't say, was it resonating? It wasn't really resonating in the sense that communicated well to demand the work that she knew that I was capable of getting. So we had conversations, discussions, and it brought up a lot of doubt for me, because I didn't know at that time I had what it took. So I took down my website.
So you started questioning yourself after realizing you thought you had it going on, and then you meet somebody who does it, and you're like, well, maybe I'm not enough.
She definitely opened my eyes up to another avenue, and honestly, that's pretty much how my career has gone. I call it this black curtain.
Okay.
So the black curtain affected me. I always use this analogy because it's more so like going to pull back a black curtain off of a stage. And once you somebody pull this curtain back, there's always a host that's going to pull this curtain back for me. And when they do pull this curtain back, they know that the possibilities are there, because they also see my potential, I feel. Because once this curtain come back, they show me these shiny things. And it's like, I can't unsee that. And then they close the curtain back. And I'm like, yo, what's behind this curtain? So I say that because Lena showed me, she was the first curtain open for me. And it was like, no, this is what you should be doing. So she showed me other photographers. That's when I started understanding the history of photographers, finding out who my mentors should be and things that I should be going after, and the proper ways to kind of like get the real work. Because at that time, it was just a bunch of people on the beach in swimsuits.
Right. And you know what? When you talk about the black curtain, the person who pulls the black curtain knows when the show is ready.
Yes, absolutely.
That's very important. I mean, like, they know not to pull the black curtain if you're not ready. So clearly she saw something in you that maybe you didn't necessarily see at that time. Okay, so keep going with this story. So then you went back to corporate America, you get married.
I got married, and that's what really drew. When she told me that, honestly, I was shook, because I felt like I can't be a photographer now. I got it. If I really want to pursue a level of happiness, and if this woman really brings me this level of happiness, then I need to figure out how to be a man, right? I need to take care of my family. All of the things that I want.
And that meant 9 to 5 to you?
To me, it translated. It was safety.
Okay.
Because it was like, what was safe to me was corporate job.
Uh-huh.
What the desire was to be more free, entrepreneurship. But I think I still could have possibly gotten there, because I was pretty decent on the technology side. I had a technical mind, so I was like, okay, well, I'll put this to the side, and I'll just become, knee deep or just dive into the whole the IT space. and see where that takes me. So my wife is very supportive of all of the things that we do. And I needed to see it for myself to really understand and build that thing within myself to kind of like know I got it.
When did that happen?
When did that happen? Well, I went back to work. So I went on the sales side of IT. And I was 3 months into the job, 6 months into the job. And I got a call. From Jody Williams. Jody hit me up because Jody and I worked on a few projects in the past, and he knew that I wanted to be, work on the movie sets and stuff like that. So Jody saw that there could be an opportunity for me through Spike Lee. So he was like, I know you just went back to work, P, but you might be able to get you in. Spike is in town. He's looking for a brother to kind of come and shoot on his movie that he got coming here. His brother is a still photographer on set, but his brother can't do this. So he's willing to talk to you, to kind of help mentor you, to kind of push you through it. It's David Lee. So me and David kind of chatted, but Spike, let me go back to my story. I lost my train right there. But Spike was, no, Jody called me, right?
Jody called you, right, yeah. Jody called you 3 months into the gig. Well, yeah, you had gone back to corporate. Yep. Jody calls you.
And wanted me to set up some time to meet Spike. So I go Jody sets up the time. I go meet with Spike for all of 5 minutes. Spike is just flipping through the book, real stone face.
Did you get any eye contact?
I don't think I did. He was just some more so like making sure, in his mind, I had to check the boxes and make sure that I can light, I can compose a shot, and I was somewhat technical to kind of get it.
Uh-huh.
And at the same time, as we know Spike today, he wants to make sure that as an African-American man, I had an opportunity to be in a space that was primarily white.
Yes.
So he was very adamant about bringing somebody in black to make this thing work because that's how he saw it. So he gave me that opportunity. He called me on the phone as I was talking to Lena, and I was like, if nothing else, I got a chance to talk with Spike. That was a high for me.
Well, let me ask you this real quick. When you got the call from Spike, were you looking at the area code? Like, did you have his number prior to this, or was it one? Right. So it was one of those things where you saw like a New York area code. When you answered the phone, did you even think that you would hear Spike Lee on the other end actually offering you this gig? Usually you think it's a handler, right? Or somebody under Spike. Talk about the time when you got the call and you actually talked to Spike Lee.
I literally walked out the office with Spike on my way to the car. Called my wife, like, Lena, look, I just got to Spike. She's like, well, how did it go? What did he say? Because Lena likes to dig deeper. I can't just give her surface answers.
No, that's all of us. We want the dings.
Yeah, she wanted all of the details. So, yeah, no, that's when I said, when I clicked, we were talking, and then I was like, hold on, I got a foreign call. At that time, I saw the area code. I have to answer this. And I picked up the call. I was like, hey, Parrish, it's Spike. Yeah, I'm going to have you shoot the movie. And that's all he said. He was like, are you in a union? I was like, no. He's like, don't worry about it. You're going to get a call. And clicked back over. I was like, that was Spike. I got the job.
Yeah.
So during that time, it was, but I had to make a hard decision because I went back to corporate. I didn't just go back to any job. I went back. I was making six figures. I was in sales. It was a life-changing, a dream come true to kind of like be in photography, then go back into the world and then get a job making six figures at that time. You know what I'm saying? And have this opportunity where I can take care of my wife. So I'm proven. Now I'm a proven man. My manhood was back. So I had to make a decision. I wrestled with this whole thing inside, and it was more so like, man, do I quit this job?
Right.
Or do I go and pursue my dreams? So Lena is always like, well, talk to me. What's going on? And I told her, and she was like, you thinking about this? Why are you thinking about this? Go be with Spike.
Right.
To her, it was a no-brainer. And that was the push that I needed because I couldn't go to a woman I just met, trying to, show her that I'm a man and I can make hard decisions and I can do this and I'm going to beat it. And when I got her encouragement to push, it was like, wow.
Right.
The only other person that ever supported me like that was my mom. You know what I'm saying? So it was like, and she's pushing me and making me do something that she believed that I can do.
Uh-huh.
So that was the first move. So thank you, wife, for believing in me. And at that point, it was just like, okay, this is go time. I really got to show and prove. So I got to go at this dream, this opportunity again, and really.
But next level though, because this was the first time you were on a movie set,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Shooting pictures.
Yes.
So this is where you're starting to level up in your career. Keep going.
So yet again, another curtain, right? Spike was the host. My wife was the pusher. She pushed the whole thing. She encouraged it. So, once I saw that as an opportunity, I didn't know what that meant either, even going into that space. I would be working on movies. Then I started to really educate myself, learn about all of the still photographers that were there, put myself into that network really heavy, started talking to different still photographers, started to understand what they do. Because along the way, Spike was very hard on me during the whole time. I got kicked off set a few times for just being in the way, not having any set etiquette, which is very important when you're on set.
Okay.
Not knowing how to navigate and actually get the studio the shots that they actually needed that was marketable. So a lot of things I learned on the job and under pressure because Spike Lee was giving me heat the entire time.
Yeah. But in the end, it was all good with him, right?
Yes, in the end, he said I did a great job, and from there, opportunities started to pour in.
Right. What would you tell your younger self? What would current Paris tell his younger self, who's just starting to get into this, or any other young person? I mean, your son is now shooting and doing photography. You talked about how mentors mentored you and the influence and the impact they had on your career. So what would you say to somebody who's young trying to get into this business and be like you?
Yeah, perseverance, right? I mean, with intention though, because you got to know that this is it. And a lot of times we don't always have that 100% full belief in ourselves. And you got to really even when it's hard and the money isn't coming in, you still got to know how to stick with it.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times people don't really understand that perseverance is it can be years before you get your big break, and really building that audience and really building your craft. You got to stick with it. It's like staying in the game, really learning the craft. You have to be masterful, which is another reason why the song that I did my exhibit on, I Know You Got Soul, really works, because Rakim talks a lot about mastering your craft before you step on stage. Because what he says is that once I'm gonna get on this mic, but once I leave this mic, you ain't gonna be able to touch it. It's gonna be too hot, because I know I mastered my craft before I stepped on the stage. Mm-hmm. And that's the thing. It's if you really want to do it, you have to do your homework. You have to study. I mean, knowing your history is significant. Knowing those who came before you, understanding the technical ways in doing things and the trends, because within photography, there are trends, and you got to follow those trends, know when the trends fall out, keep it moving, and kind of keep it going. So I think that being very intentional about your pursuit.
Yeah. I was just going to ask you about I Know You Got Soul, and we're here because we're looking at your photos, and this is your exhibit. This is your first solo photo exhibit, right? So congratulations to Paris on that. Talk about the style of the pictures that were in the photos that we're seeing on the walls here, because they reflect the theme of I Know You Got Soul.
Yeah. So my interpretation of the song, because it's such an uplifting song, because it's so motivational for me, it's two things to do two people that I listen to when I need to motivate myself. It's Rakim and Jay-Z.
Okay.
And Rakim has so many powerful metaphors, and I Know You Got Soul, that I thought that I could take some of those metaphors and turn them into visual pieces from me, while at the same time paying homage to some of the people that I've been inspired by, like George Daniels, like Jay Ivey, like Terry Hunter, and then taking that rhythmic soul. But at the same time, I wanted to create something that wasn't so blatant clear of a person that's on your wall in the home. I wanted to create something a little bit more abstract, give it a little bit more blur, give it a little bit more color, give it a little bit more meaning, which is why I was very intentional about the blur. I was very intentional about the color. I was very intentional about being able to make sure that each photo had to be a level of movement that was kind of caught, where that blur then becomes the soul of the person, which then I Know You Got Soul, which is how the name kind of comes about.
Right. I want to go back to your story and your life. And you talked about Chirac being your first movie set and where you were the photographer. Now you're responsible for some of the posters that are going viral What does that feel like to now see everybody marveling at your posters and considering your story and how you got to where you are?
It was always a dream, and it feels so good to see it on Sunset Boulevard. You know, not just on Instagram. I can go down Sunset Boulevard or right in Manhattan in Times Square and use. I mean, it's very fulfilling. It's a fulfilling thing, and sometimes, you know, my wife always say I'm too humble, so I try to take it in. But it's such a great feeling to see it on a bigger stage in Hollywood. You know, it's like I've arrived, you know, and I'm there, and my phone is ringing. It's just not now because we're on strike.
Right. Exactly. Everybody's on strike too.
Yeah, everybody's on strike.
Everybody is on strike. But yeah, that has to be just like a full circle moment too.
It is because I've always had the dream. I've always wanted to be in this position, and a lot of times I have to sit back and I have to really take time and really show my gratitude for the discipline that's built, the support that I have. I mean, I wouldn't even be here at this position if it wasn't for the call my wife made, right? If it wasn't even also too for the support, because now that I'm here, when I get that call for a movie, I'm going for 2, 3, 4 months possibly.
Right.
And that whole load transfers over to my wife.
Right.
And who has a big job.
Yeah.
And who's killing it. So I mean, to have that level of support and that level of, like, she has this belief in me, like, really, you're gonna,
yeah,
it makes me want to go out and really put forth everything that I possibly can to make sure that, all right, babe, you know, I'm gonna bring this back home to you. Yeah, we good.
Yeah. And you don't take it for granted.
No, I couldn't. Yeah. I make it a point to come home every weekend, you know, because I have to be able to relieve some kind of way. And it's just good, you know, getting up in the morning, making sure that I check on my family, making sure they're good, days off to a good start, try to put the right people in place that can get to the house to help, you know, whatever little task that she can't get done. I try to just, I'm very conscious about that piece because it does not fall short on me about the level of support that I have. And that's a big factor too, is like, you can't get anywhere with just you alone. It takes a support system.
I see some men in this room and I see some young men. I hope y'all listening, because this is how a man is supposed to think and feel about his wife and his family. And the fact that you are speaking on that and genuinely and wholeheartedly is super, super dope. Would you say, Parrish, that you are there? Have you made it? Is there more? What's next?
Yes. That's a good question, because that's the piece and where my humbleness kind of like want to take in and try to take some of that away from me.
You want to dim your light a little bit instead of light.
Just so that people wouldn't feel away when they're next to it, you know, or around it or asking questions. But I am here. I've arrived.
Yeah.
I'm where I always.
Yes. That part. That's the soundbite.
I've arrived. I mean, to the point where is that I am probably the top 10 call that any studio would want to have. Right when they decide that we're going to make this movie and they got to figure out which photographer, I know I'm one of the 10.
That's wow.
In the world. And I know too, just knowing that it gives me confidence and assurance. It's like that job security, because I've worked so hard and I've just constantly keep delivering just a solid product to each studio, giving them all of the marketing materials that they need to market this movie, to push this movie, giving them all of the visuals that they can need. It's never going to be, if a movie doesn't go well or do well at the box office, it's not because the photos weren't good.
Right. I did my part. Listen, I'm feeling you on so many levels in this conversation, because I'm like, if we don't rate it, ain't because of me.
It's not because of me. You got all of the marketing materials.
Yeah. Okay, I feel like I've asked so many questions. Are there any questions from the audience? Okay, right away. Okay.
Did you start out with photography, or did you start out as like maybe doing drawings and stuff like that?
I started out with photography. Photography was my main source. I'm now kind of dabbling with motion, some video, because it's the next component or the next level, but photography is my first love. So it's definitely due to the photography is where it kind of drives me first.
impressed with the pictures and how in some of these pictures you can, even though it's abstract, you can still visually see the faces.
And that was intentional. Yes, that was highly intentional. It was so. Just to give you an idea, the images were shot with a very older style of technique of photography. It's called shutter drag, right? But within that, you have to make sure that the light, there has to be some level of flash. You're dragging your shutter, meaning I'll drop that down to more simpler term. Yeah. Whereas that you have to shoot at so the shutter is a button you push, right? So within that, it's either a fast shutter and it's gonna freeze motion, or a longer shutter where it drags the motion. But during that long time when that button is still open, it's recording information, which then causes the drag. But then if you don't have a flash to kind of come, it freezes that motion and where you get that energy. And what I wanted to see in each photo was energy. So each photo, when you look at it, to me, it has sound to it. You can feel and hear what noise, even with the band is the most significant one, because all you can imagine hearing is that cymbal clapping as soon as she closes it.
I want that.
Thank you. Somebody get to that man right there.
Right. With that reader, that card reader. We got you. It is yours. Say less. Anyone else have any questions?
So as you were developing your expertise, you said you started in film. So like the film is expensive, developing it and everything. So were you just shooting a gazillion rolls of film and?
Yeah, film is very expensive. And I was, at that time, trying to figure it out. So starving artist. So you buy your roll of film, that's not your first purchase. You got to now pay for it to be processed. So going to the film lab after I shot something I kept anxiety inside of me, because you couldn't wait to get that film and put it on a light table with that loop to look through it to make sure that everything is good. And that's what rests your heart, because I didn't mess up this job.
Yeah.
So, and that's the piece that I feel like people take for granted, in the digital world, is that, once you take that shot, you can make a quick adjustment and it's not costing you anything. So there's a difference once that it starts to cost you, not just your own. You're talking about relationships that you got with people that's believing in you to kind of capture the moment and make sure you got good images, and then the money that's coming out of your pocket to pay for it. So it's very expensive, but you still can't beat it. Even today, the film quality still looks good. So.
Oh, second question, is it George in that picture right there?
That is George Daniels. Yep. It is.
Where do you see yourself in the next 5 years?
Well, this feels so good where I'm at right now. I'm really trying to take my time and really live into this, because now that being 50, I'm at a moment where I'm like, I'm very deliberate about how I experience life. So I really want to take every moment in slow motion, because it felt like I lived the first 50 of my years in super speed. There's not a lot of memories that I can really pull out. The camera does help record a lot of those memories, because people will tell us stories and I'm like, man, I don't remember that. But it's nothing like looking at a photo and you can go back to that moment. So where I see myself in 5 years, I definitely, at this point, I want to be able to help people live out their dreams. I want to be able to put myself in a position of influence and power, so that way I can help someone like me or see the gifts in other people and help move them. So while I'm working this and still on my journey of myself, the goal is to get to the place where I can really make some real serious change and make some people really live out their dreams and experience this feeling, and then allow them to appreciate the feeling that kind of comes with this, so that way they can be prepared to help the next person.
So in the digital world now, do you just shoot a ton of photos and at the end of the day you go back and see what I have, or do you have a shot list and I need to grab these 15 shots and I'm good for the day?
So when I started, that's a great question. Thanks for asking it. When I first started, I thought that was the goal. Shoot a lot, because of the numbers game, right? Something in here's got to be good. But my technique is so solid, I'm able to now take my time and want to tell a story. So I'm very intentional about what I shoot. And when I look back at the image, I want to make sure that it's communicating the right message. So I went from being a shooter, right, to then being a photographer, really commanding the dollar, but now more of a storyteller. So to me, when people look at my photos, I want them to be able to, they say a photo's worth 1,000 words, right? I want to hear those 1,000 words. I like to sit back and listen to people. What you think about that photo? And hear what kind of commentary that they come up with, because I find it fascinating that I can show the same photo to different people and they're going to see different things. And I can have something in my mind and where I wanted to communicate, and that's the message, because I want to stimulate the thought of making them see, man, this is powerful, because it's more than just somebody to just pose, kind of grabbing an image. Yep. Thank you for that.
So I wanted to know if you could speak to how you curated this exhibit, because with it being about hip hop, I see the representation of the lyricist or the MC, the producer, the dance. So can you speak about, and then also just how you visually represented with the installation? To me, I feel it reckons to the posters, going back to hip hop and decorating your walls with it, and how it wasn't always perfect. I don't think I ever have a level poster, right? But can you just speak to the curation, the visual representation that you took to represent hip hop?
These are some really good questions. So thank y'all for questions.
I know, right? They're very thoughtful.
Yes. So I can't take full credit. Falah is sitting right here. He's also an extraordinary photographer. I think when Lena and I discussed that we were going to do this, and the concept, the overall concept, was about hip hop and it's a photo interpretation, I knew that the only thing that I knew that I wanted to have is blurred images. I knew that I wanted to be blurred because I knew I wanted that blurriness to represent the soul. Also, the other thing that I knew that I wanted to have was color, because the color to me represented the music that's around. Because when you listen to music, it's so colorful, and I wanted people to be able to be immersed in color of the, of this blurred image of energy. Things kind of came together when Falah and I collaborated on this to be able to, push that technical skill to really kind of like be a little bit more deliberate and intentional about what type of look or feel that each photo was going to have. So we actually took the song, and we were on the phone one day and took lyrics, and we're trying to like give our interpretation of what a photo would look like with that. So we went through one lyric where it was more so like where Rakim said something about standing with my fat gold chain. And I was like, man, I could just see this. I think Falah's thought was to do somebody with standing by the speaker with a fat gold chain. And we wanted to get, at that time, I think G Herbo to be the rapper to kind of like be in front of it to kind of do, but through conversations, we had contact that just didn't work out. So we tested a lot. We shot a lot of people until we kind of like really got a good understanding as to how we're going to use these LED lights and how we're going to pull that together. It was a nice journey in building the overall idea and the scheme and building that out. Because each time a person come, we would kind of wreck our brain to figure out, all right, what's the color scheme here? So we had to think through the color scheme. We had to think about the lyric. We had to think about the emphasis that we wanted to do and the people that were really coming through to do it. We shot at least 30, 40 people, and to come with 10 images, But the three people that I definitely wanted in because they inspired me. One was George Daniels, because he helped me along my career. And I felt like he was an influential figure that people needed to, know more of, not just seeing him out at the club every time they see him.
Every time.
Yeah, right. You'd be like, who is this guy? He just always out. It's George's music room. And then my wife and I saw Jay Ivy at Soul House. And Jay was so powerful with his lyrics. I mean, he had a whole album. He made me think differently about poetry. And I'm like, man, he kept talking about body of work. And I'm like, wow, maybe that's how I should be thinking about my photography. Maybe I should have, instead of different projects I worked on, maybe it's a body of work. And then that also helped fuel it. And just always, when I think music, I'm so happy and proud of Terry and where he's going with his music career and what he's doing. I mean, he's the first and only DJ that I felt that had that impact and that emphasis and still moving the crowd and making the people respond, the way that he do. So to me, the DJ was always going to be Terry Hunter. I don't know if I answered that question directly, but so Brian Johnson, to your point, you mentioned how the photos are hung. He had a very particular way, because he's actually my curator. So Brian introduced me into the as a photographer. He brought me into the photography world, showed me how I needed to be as a photographer. And now I ask him a lot of questions about art. And Brian puts on these huge displays. He's like, first off, everything you gotta do is gotta be big. My pieces have gotta be big. All of his pieces are big. And when he saw the images, he felt that, to your point, it's crazy how you said that. He felt that each photo should live in a box and it should be imperfect. So it should look like it's kind of folding off the wall a little bit, or it's like a poster that's there because it's hip hop. People didn't have frames then. They were almost just kind of there in the case and you did it. So the presentation is there to kind of give you that feeling like it's the beautiful imperfection. And I credit all of that to Brian Johnson, who curated it. And as far as how he arranged everything, I set it up. Brian went through each photo. He's like, okay, this is the one we want to print at this size. We want to do this one at this size. And then when he laid them all out, it was a process because he had them laid all out. He was trying to figure out which color was going to go where and how he was going to present it. So he hung each piece. And to have somebody who I respect that kind of brought me to hang your pieces on the wall and to do this, that was huge.
Super.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's actually a great question because as I'm looking at you, I'm looking at JIB, and I noticed that it was going to ask you about how it was framed and why. So you just answered that. That makes sense then. And then to your point, you're right.
So I love how you talk about music is a color.
Yeah.
And how your installation just continues to expand that movement in that color. So this dope. So
Thank you.
I've been in the business for almost 30 years. And you by far, my guy, are probably one of the most genuine that I've been around. And I've been around stars, I've been around this person and that person. But as far as, and we always talk about that. Be your authentic self, be genuine in who you are. And we have this code of you can't BS. You can't BS your way through this business.
No, you can't.
And
Yeah,
Val, you know that. You've been in the business a long time.
Yes.
So for Lyle, you've been in it. So you got to be able to deliver on what you say you are. Or you have to be able to be that. And you got to stand on it. And my man, you have stood on it. And also you've allowed the old heads to guide you, and you've used that to guide others. Because I see you on set. We had some of the best talks. I'm over his shoulder, and he has all of these photos. And I'm like, hey man, why don't you display this, man? Why? And he was, oh DJ, no, I can't. I said, no, this is you. This is your authentic. This is what you shoot. This is your soul. And for him to name it that and all of these things, and for you to pull all these elements together, 4 or 5 years after we had this talk, my man, you get a Denzel clap, baby. Man. Because and like I say, seeing this young cat right here, seeing him, knowing him when I remember, like I said, we were somewhere and you brought him in and he's in a little carry. He's a little dude, I'm holding him and I'm like, it all goes back. This is the soul. This is what it's about. And brother, I want to thank you for giving back as much as you give to everybody else. We wanted to give back to you. We applaud you. And man, thank you for sharing your soul. Thank you for sharing your soul.
It is a vulnerable place to be. This is the first time I'm doing something like this.
When I looked at the images, what I see is the passion and the power. Because hip hop has been about speaking on the struggle.
Yes.
And the resistance to the struggle.
Absolutely.
And so with the blurred image, I just see the power and the passion coming through. Like, we're not afraid. You're not going to whip me and then I'm going to be submissive. You know what I mean?
I do.
So in this world, the way things have been for Black people, hip hop was our way of dealing with it. And so I look at this image right here. I see the power and the passion.
Yes, you see the passion in
yeah,
it. Yes.
Oh yeah. So my spirit is connected to it.
Yeah.
And it's interesting you say that, Ray, because being a photographer, you're constantly told what you need to do better, especially when you go to these different portfolio reviews. You're trying to get this agency work. I've been shape-shifting myself, readapting myself, reconfiguring myself, having too many images of people of color in my portfolio, being told that not having enough white people in my portfolio to really show them that I can shoot the skin, and then also getting jobs because they say, oh, you know how to shoot black people really well. And that photography is very technical. You either know it, you don't know it, right? And we don't get the same opportunities that our white photographers get, in those spaces, because they are, I know some millionaire photographers who get great opportunities, and you might see a brother or two at the top, but we don't get any more than that. But it's so many of them at the top, and it's hard to make that. So this feels good to be able to like display myself on the way that I see fit and my vision and my work without having an art buyer or art director or anybody else, a creative director, to give me any critiques about what they think about.
And for your culture.
And for my culture, exactly.
Yeah. And the beauty of you being a photographer is that what photographers do is that we record life for future generations.
Absolutely.
Someone's going to be inspired enough to analyze your work and figure out what was going on in your head, what helped you develop this mindset, what struggles were you going through to try and get to where you are, and all of that is in the photos.
Well, thank you for noticing it. I appreciate it.
Oh, it's pure love.
What would be your advice to the up-and-coming photographers that there are several transitions that we've seen throughout our lives as photographers doing it for 10, 20 years? How do you get to the next level from where a lot of people are now and just taking standard portraits of individuals to getting to where you want to be? And, also, you should probably tell us where you want to go. I heard you mention about the next 5 years. I know that we had talked about you doing more art and more displaying that. So maybe you could touch on that a little bit, but also just give us some advice as to what the standard photographer can do to transition into the world of doing corporate jobs or working into.
I think that it's very important to use the camera as a tool. I didn't understand that, didn't know what that meant until you start to look at, when you go into, for example, my wife and I went to a restaurant yesterday, very nice restaurant in the South Loop area, and they had a bunch of pictures on the wall. So mainly you go to any old restaurant now, you'll see a bunch of pictures on the wall. And on these pictures on the wall is just a whole bunch of white people on the wall enjoying their lives. Their life is recorded, is documented over and over again in their spaces. What you rarely see, and it became evident during the Black Lives Matter movement, is that you need to see more people who pick up a camera need to tell what's going on in their community. The camera is a tool for you to be able to document, not to copy a Coke campaign because you want some Coke work, not to copy any type of thing that you see on social media because you want that. It's taking your camera and documenting your family at the family function, capturing that in a way of telling a story. Become a storyteller in your community, different events that's going on. Grab that energy, retell that story, because as Andre mentioned, it's all about recording life, right? And if we pick up cameras and we tell this, your voice become that much more known opposed to shooting spec work, right? So it's building your own body of work through your own experiences, and at the same time learning the history. You have to learn the history. You have to know where. You can't be so arrogant and think that I'm so good that I'm the dopest person out here and can nobody else be better than me. You got to know who came before you. You got to know Gordon Parks. You got to know what Gordon Parks was all about. You got to know why he shot what he shot. You got to know even the names that I've even mentioned. You got to know Ernest Collins. You got to know David Jenkins. What did David do that was so significant in Chicago? He shot more hair care stuff than anybody that probably, any chef. His images are still on the shelves. So you got to know what these people done. You got to know their contribution. You got to know the struggle, because that helps build you, and it gives you insight on being more creative and building your story and just becoming more technical at the same time.
We talk a lot about the journey, and it's kind of a lot said, but like, how it's a period of time and the journey to get here. And like, people think you can just face it one.
Yep. The journey. The journey is a tear down, build back up process each time. It's like shedding different versions of yourself, right? It's about taking those opportunities, and when somebody show you something, to be able to, that curtain pulled back, to be able to see this person walked me to this opportunity, showed me this thing because they felt like I had the belief. And it's being able to humble yourself to know that I can be here, but I have to do these things first. It's about knowing that this is the goal. You set this goal. This is my end goal. and everybody always sets the goal, but they don't think about the little task that it takes to get to the big goal. So it's being able to set goals for yourself, but then now how do I break that big goal down into little small bites so that way I can move forward each day, taking 15 minutes, 30 minutes each day to do a particular thing that then over years, it becomes something significant. Because when I look back on the things that I've done, I lose my breath because it's more so like, man, I can't believe I did that. But it's been so consistent. I've been doing the same thing over and over and over again, even in the moments of doubt. When you sit there and no money's coming in and there's, no opportunities are coming, but you're still working at it, you're still doing it. And you're putting yourself in the way of people who have that access, that exposure, learning from them, growing from them, because you can't do it by yourself. And I don't know if that answers it, but you know how I get a little long-winded and don't land my plane.
Just being a photographer and being working at my new, I would like for you to speak on like the business side of photography. We all know like the fast pace, a lot of us go from celebrities when you get into photography. You think like that's the way. And then I learned like to go back and create the foundation so that with the foundation now, when you roll it, you will have to go backwards. So as far as like what I struggle with now is like the balance of that lifestyle and then business.
Yep. As I always tell you, Cam, photography is 90% business, 10% photography. A successful photographer will know that I need to put more into my business, just as much more into my business than I do the art side of it.
What does that mean exactly?
Yeah, good. That means making sure that, you get your articles of incorporation and your bank account, your invoicing, your price list, your marketing and materials, having to communicate your brand, building a brand, understanding what that means. I mean, all of those are elements in order to, before you can become, because once you get that first person that hires you, then now all of the business things takes place. You can go shoot that one event, you can go shoot that one thing, but then it's like, how do you deliver it? And even from your packaging, I was always impressed with Apple. I never, when I was delivering CDs, I was making sure that my packaging was on point, the graphic design and everything is in place. All of the things that sets you up to be a brand instead of just like going out, just executing the job. So understanding that it's a business practice and once you decide that this is what I want to do, you have to make sure that the business is something that you take serious. And it's something that I'm still like developing and growing. And thank God I got an MBA next to me all the time. She keeps me, my business in order.
How do you go from business to like you just want to do something for the passion?
And that's the balance, right? So I think that in its infancy stages, meaning in the very beginning, you have to really work on your craft, right? It's building your craft, it's shooting it, it's really understanding what you're doing, the technical aspects, learning all of the technicals, right? Which is why I always tell people, don't ever chase equipment, chase the understanding, because people will have you gone because I've been told by so many people like, oh, this is a great photo. What kind of camera is that? So there's
No, it's the eye behind the camera.
They're so quick to give you credit for they don't want to give the person the credit. They think that the camera captured that moment. So if you're not technical enough to be able to put yourself I'm always thinking photo first. When I look at a person, when I'm standing at a person, I'm good with eye contact and I'm looking at this person. And I know sometimes it makes them feel a little awkward, but my eye contact is impeccable when it comes to communication, almost too much because it feels weird because I'm looking at the shadows. I'm looking at how the light is falling on this person's face, the different things, what's behind them. I'm setting up the photo in my head. So it has to always come to that point where I lost my thought there, but yeah.
I think you got it right, Cam. Yeah. What are you talking about? Because you were talking about the difference with the balance, obviously, business, branding, passion, and then,
How do you go from passion to business? Because a lot of the times, like you used to tell me, I didn't learn until now, like, not to say some money. And as you get into the art, you upset. Do you like doing this, or is it just because you do see, people like you, other photographers, in certain areas it's fast money, and then higher it goes quality. So it's like, then when you get in that area, it's like, how do you snap out of that bubble and go into like, oh, I actually like this.
Yeah. It's part of the journey again. It goes back to, because you're not exposed to any of that until you move. The more you do something, the more people become familiar with what you do. That's why it's important to kind of like fuel yourself with the expertise and the learning and the understanding and putting yourself in those environments. Because as people have opened the curtain for me, once they see you persistent, that persistency, that not giving up, and people see that, which is what I saw in you. It's what I see in my son. It's being able to see those passions, to be able to see, okay, you're going to get the help that you need at every level. This support. I speak on the support because no one person is made by themselves. You got to pursue your dreams and go after what it is that you want to go for, and let the universe form to that. You have to decide who you want to be and go be it. The doors of opportunity will open themselves as long as you stay true to who you are and what you're doing.
Earlier you mentioned how one of your main messages to the youth was to persevere. So I wanted to know, recently, is that anything that you had to persevere through?
Yes. I'm persevering through my purpose, right? I'm now becoming clear right now on what my purpose is. My purpose is to be able to give back, to become an example, because so often, even the words that when I hear myself talking, I feel like there's so much more in between the words that I'm saying, and it's so hard to give it that read. It's hard to answer Cam's question correctly or directly because you have to live through certain things. You know what I'm saying? So you have to understand that I have to stay disciplined and I have to stay purposeful about my perseverance and what it is that I'm doing. And through time, it's like trusting the system. It's like how do you do a trust fall, right? I'm a trust fall to the universe. But put myself out here as this thing that I want to be, as this photographer or this artist that I want to be. And I'm going to take this trust fall because the universe is going to take me under my wing and guide me into the directions that I'm doing, because everybody that comes in my path will see that I'm focused and I'm dedicated to this. You just got to be open-minded enough to know, like, it's time for me to step up. And those signs show itself. I just feel like those signs show itself when it's time for me to now move to this next level. I need to acquire this next knowledge. I need to kind of keep it moving, because that's what life kind of like does for us. All of the answers isn't there. It's for us to live. And the lessons are through the experiences, the good ones and the bad.
Yesterday I was here and we was talking about one of my favorite pieces of Legendary George.
Yes.
And I'm 19, so when I was growing up, there was no record store. So I wanted to ask you, how was it like being in a record store? What was that experience?
I mean, anybody can speak to Tuesday drops. I mean, you can know that every Tuesday somebody dropping an album, and that it's a possibility that person would be at the record store signing, doing album signs. So you want to be able to get in how people was chasing sneakers? They get into the lines and do that. It was like that in a record store first. Evergreen Plaza had I forgot which, what was the name? Was it Coconuts? Metro Music, Coconuts. And you can spend all day at the record store because you're cycling through the music that you want to be able to keep in your binder in the car. So it was definitely a good time to be alive during that time. So I'm sorry you guys didn't get a chance to experience that.
Right.
Talk a little bit about your Vic's journey in film, but we talk about directing and like what's the career path of a set photographer in the movie business? A possible career path.
Well, in the role that I'm at on the movie set, I feel like I gotta say it's one of the best jobs, because I get a chance to capture and create more stories than more so about than the movie itself. So in being in that position, I'm able to really be next to the director. I can ear hustle all day long and understand what the director is doing and how he's navigating. I can be next to the director of photography and understand how technical to be with lighting. I'm able to be next to any person that's operating at the highest level. And working on movie sets is like being at, I guess I could say, being in the NBA. If you're a sports person or at the highest level of your game, it's the highest level that you can be to. And I'm side by side with these people every day. And you start to see opportunities. I see my opportunities for myself as being a director, because I know how to direct. I'm directing all day with photos. and knowing how to communicate to them and communicate the message and deliver that. So I'm in a space where I'm learning constantly. So I think that being in that space and learning and paying attention is, I see the next opportunity as a director. Yeah.
I was gonna say, so is that something you see yourself doing?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Feature films
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That probably feature films and commercials.
and commercials.
Yeah.
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 You know what? Lena just brought up just being a set photographer, and we haven't really talked about just what a day in a life of a set photographer looks like. What does that look like? How early are you getting up? How late are you on set? The sacrifice, you talked about the sacrifices about being gone for 2 to 3, 4 months at a time. But just in a day, you know, a lot of times people will look at other folks' jobs and think, oh, that looks easy.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I can do that.
Yeah.
Until they get on set and they have a Spike Lee yelling at them and dissing them in front of. Talk about just from top to bottom. What time are you getting up? What time are you going to bed? What is that day like? I know it's long hours.
Yeah. So first thing, you know, call times vary. So it's being able to have a schedule. Once you sign up and a movie brings you, studio brings you in to shoot a movie, your time isn't your time because it's all based off of you getting a call sheet and what time it's starting. Call time should be 6 a.m. Well, call time could be 6 p.m. And knowing that my day isn't my day is the biggest piece. And you got to know, it's not a set time. But once you get to set, it's being able to, see opportunities. I get such freedom, whereas that the crew has an assigned, here are the shots that we're going to get for the day. But when I'm looking at that shot list or what they're looking at on that call sheet for the day, I'm breaking down there's a description. So you'll see 3 scenes being shot today. And in that, there's a description. A young man drinks water from the refrigerator. Now, what does that look like from an image perspective? I got to capture an image that breaks this description down. So I'm knowing that I have to capture this image in multiple directions. So once I check those boxes, it's a lot of waiting because, you're in the TV space. So, they'll shoot one section, break down, which then takes them forever to start to turn around the camera to shoot from the other end. And you got to shoot it from a different angle again. So that in between time, I'm able to go in and grab that shot. But at the same time, I got to be a fly on the wall because I can't be disruptive.
Exactly.
The priority in this space is the movie. I have to be able to get in with my camera, sneak in to get the shot. But then there's times
the shot. I mean, that's the
and the
thing,
shot.
the shot.
And you can't be moving around. You can't, because this is an actor who has to not only remember their mark, they have to remember their lines. They have to remember what they did before for continuity purposes. So you got to be sensitive to know, I can't be disruptive to this person moving around. I have to find my spot, find my angle, get my shot, and then get out the way.
Right.
Quickly. So that means I have to be technically sound to know how to go in there and get that shot. So even once that happens, you're still waiting for the rest of the day to make this happen. So there's a lot of downtime. And during that downtime, I try to make sure that I'm either importing photos or, trying to come up with another email communications for the next job or checking in with the family or, just keeping my head in the game because there's no place that I can go until we turn around and I cover off and get all my shots. Communicating with the actors because you're building a rapport with the actors. The actors got to know that the person that we have on set, is he going to capture me in the right light? I don't want him to capture me while I'm eating. I don't want to capture me while I'm blinking. I don't want to capture me between, where my face is doing something weird, when they get these images from the studio. So you're sensitive to that. So I have to go, I introduce myself to all of the actors. And at that time, there's never an appropriate time because they're in their headspace trying to remember their lines.
And you have to figure.
I got to figure out when is a good time to jump in and jump out.
It's a dance. It's a dance. That's very interesting, and especially when you talk about the shot, because I think you're kind of minimizing the pressure.
It's a lot of pressure
that is on. He's not really. I mean, I'm trying to pull it. That's not easy to get the shot because you don't have time to go, oh, wait, can you redo that again? Again, he's supposed to be a fly on the wall. So you have to get in there and get that. So I feel like, because I am a mother of young kids, and I feel like I can say that, sometimes I wonder if this generation can handle the pressure. Don't be mad at me.
Yeah.
But I just feel like 50-somethings are built different.
Yeah.
What can you say to the younger generation about the pressure? Because you could either fold or you could rise.
That's true. That's true. And that's the part that frustrates me sometimes when people say that they have the desire to do it. When you have to put yourself at a level of understanding with your equipment and your knowledge and your understanding, because there are no do-overs, right? I got to get in and I got to get the shot quickly. And they got to know, the studio has to have enough faith and belief in me to know that, yeah, this person didn't want you in their eye line and you were creating this distraction, but we still need this photograph. We still need you to capture this moment because this is how we're going to market this movie. So you still have to put yourself in a way, some kind of way to figure out, how do I balance this without pissing off this actor that can get you fired?
Right.
Or even the director that can tell you can't get this. And the worst call in the world is to have to call the studio and say, well, they wouldn't let me in to get this shot, and because you have to open up and speak, and a lot of times when I'm talking to younger people, a lot of times they don't ask the right questions or know to ask questions, or will dismiss the fact that it takes time. You have to persevere. You have to stick with it. There is no, I can't do it. There is no, I can't. And you either will, you can, or you can't. There's no do-overs. Even like shooting, even if you say, I want to shoot weddings, you can't go to the bride or the groom and say, could you redo this? I missed this opportunity to do it. You almost have to, you have to give it headspace. You can't be on your phone. You can't be texting. There's too much distraction.
And dialed in.
You have to be so focused that you're literally a fly on the wall. You're watching everybody's movement. You're watching everybody's behavior. You're predicting moments to happen. Like I can be at an event, for example, and I'm paying attention to people's movements and how they're doing it. Who's gonna introduce themselves, or who's gonna go in for the big hug, and I'd be there to anticipate those shots. And the hardest thing in the world is to anticipate the needs of others, right? So, but you got to do it as a storyteller, as you're documenting it. So it's very difficult. And a lot of times people don't really understand how they have to really humble themselves, because you really have to humble yourself to really sit back, not make it about me. This isn't about me. I have to give this my headspace, open my mind up, and be present in everything that's happening to be able to capture this on set, at an event, at a wedding, or whatever you're doing when you're documenting that process as a photographer.
Nowadays, like you said, the kids aren't built that way, the some reason, one of them. But when you do have kids that's 19-year-old, other kids like that, you have to feed that. That's where mentorship comes in, and grabbing these kids that do want to do it, and grabbing them and taking them and saying, okay, this is what you need to do, especially if they got that fire to do it, like a mentor. Have you ever thought about doing something?
Oh yeah, that's my space. I definitely believe in mentorship. I got a lot of mentees that come to me. Even my son, he picks up a camera. Cam, it's a lot of young men. When I see that desire, I want to make sure I set them up for success, and I make sure that they're with me. They understand my process. I don't try to hide anything or thinking about it as being competitive in a sense, because at this point I know that they're not going to get to the level that I know how long it took me to get here. I'm not in fear that they're going to replace me. So I'm more so open to give them all of the tools that they need. If they pay attention and do the work, they can get there. And I make myself available. I created a mentorship program for Netflix, actually, during the whole Black Lives Matter movement. They were so hustling, trying to get more African-American people to be on the film sets, mainly as still photographers, right? So they were throwing people in places, and we were just going to bring somebody in. I refuse to just bring anyone in. So it's I won't let nobody just come. We need to create structure and create a program for these people to follow, because everybody learned through instruction and learn by doing. So Netflix trusted me to create a mentorship program to bring in young Black photographers into the union. So mentorship is definitely part of my whole purpose as well. I've pushed that strongly.
To piggyback off of set life, I met Parrish about 5 years ago, and I worked for Candyman with him. I seen little bits and pieces, but then just to actually finally be on set myself, it's one thing for him to tell you things, and then you're when you're on there, you literally can't make any noise in this. It's you barely have any space, and then me going in not knowing anybody, so I'm just trying to name drop Parrish so I can have a little bit of wiggle room. But then it's within the hour you probably have about 5 minutes to get your shots, and then get out of there. But then after that, you just waiting around. So like the pressure with Paris being my mentor, I would say it took me a long time to find somebody that I can actually listen to, just because I think being 26, we don't really listen. We like to see things, and I always told myself like I have to listen to Paris because this is the same journey that I'm taking, and without listening, I've tried not to listen, and it
Did work out.
and you have to come back to, you know. So I would say like just speaking on, like he said, like bringing other youth in under Paris, like it's good because he's not gonna sugarcoat anything. If your picture not good, he gonna tell you your picture not good. Then he gonna tell you how to get the picture good. So it's kind of like I kind of like that, me personally, because a lot of people don't. Now you can just get a nice camera. Celebrities are out there that want to shoot for free. So now it's easy to kind of get a little further. But I think because this is my 9th year shooting now, so everything that I've learned under Paris is kind of like helpful because I think I skipped a lot of the hiccups that I, you know, would have went through without it. But yeah, that set life is different. I still, it's like you have to have a workflow. If not,
It took a while for me to get through to Cam. He finally showed me his work ethic and his persistence. I then got him into the union as well, to your point earlier. I was able to bring him, and that's life changing. Once the whole strike ends, you know, and he lands an opportunity to be on set as a young man, he hasn't even seen the levels in which he would even grow in that. So the opportunity, I know it's there, and that's what I try to do. I like to empower, encourage younger men so that they can, and women, so that way they can live out their dreams. Because I even brought in a few young Black women into the union as well. So that's my thing. I know that it's opportunity there for them, and I know that the money that they'll make is life changing, especially young. But they just got to stick to it and work the process. You got to trust the process. If there is a process, you have to trust the process and work on it, work through it.
I wanted to know, was there any particular piece that you shot that stood out over the years that like are your favorite?
Yeah, every movie project I worked on, there is definitely a shining image. The unfortunate part about working on the movie sets is that I don't own any of the photos after I shoot them. So after they come on my camera, as much as I would want to display them and put them on a big display for the world to see, I can't because the studio owns them. And I'm okay with that because now this has given me an opportunity to do this. So this is my first exhibit. Now my eyes have opened. I'm taking it. I did this and it's completely vulnerable on my end, not knowing the ins and outs, not understanding what means. It's so vulnerable to be able to put something that I think is cool, right, out there for the rest of the world to judge and hope that they buy it. So this right here feels like another outlet for me because whereas that my day-to-day job doesn't allow me to show my imagery in this light, I can take ideas that I've even gathered by some of the top movie directors and kind of bring my own vision and my own spin to it to create more shows like this.
Miss Honey, you are causing it today.
Oh, thank you. Well, I had to rise to the occasion.
Really?
I knew where I was going. I had to bring the noise here. Thank you so much. And thank you guys for coming and being so engaged. I mean, I've done many of these, but seriously, their questions and the thoughtfulness behind it and the interest. Yeah, it's definitely, and there's, obviously your wheels are turning, my wheels are turning. And how many of you could relate to what Paris shared about his journey and his story? Because that's his story, but yet that's the beauty of life, right?
Yes.
Is that we can draw upon things that you said and make them your own or hopefully inspire you. Yes. So again, thank you so much for coming. Bye, bye, bye. Purchase. Yes. Get you a t-shirt, style it with some cute jeans or leather shorts, a blazer, and go out, because you can buy graphic tees anywhere, but it might as well buy a graphic tee from Paris Lewis. Okay.
Thank you all. Thank you.